But I found out that I just got to look at what I do best, who I am, what drains my energy, and then find other people, to plug in where I'm not optimal. And so that's one big thing in the last couple of years that I've realized is like, we can't ignore who we are. If you're the creator, then the planner, you got to just live there. And whoever's the executor and the optimizer, right? There's 4 stages that's kind of in the personality realm.
This is Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Super SaaS Bros. We are your hosts, Cory and Jayde Silva. Today, we have the pleasure of bringing on an amazing guest. He has such an interesting background. He's got background in music. He's got background running a business in tech as well. And then he's also a father of 7, which we will absolutely be talking about. But Josh, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here, man.
Hey, thanks. Really good to be here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. We've got lots to talk about today, but first and foremost, we always like to start our guest off with a little bit of a scenario questions. You know, you're going into downtown, call an Uber shows up, you get to the back, and the Uber turns to you and he's like, well, what do you do, man? What's your answer?
So I have, a burning desire to help people with, their dreams, right? So that may come up in business setting where they've got an idea, they're a startup and they want credibility online, they want some alignment to really share what their vision is, and they need messaging alignment and things like that. So I feel like my desire to help people really live their best life comes through this professional avenue I call my agency, where I try to help people shine online the best they can through design and messaging and brand alignment and things like that.
Shine
Awesome,
online.
man.
That's a new one. I've never heard that. A little marketing, a little plug in there. Cool, man. So what I know, I think one of the more interesting things is most people when they dive into tech, usually they'll kind of go to school, they'll go into math, computer science, right? And they'll kind of come out, they've been playing with computers their whole life, and they're like, okay, I really want to get into the tech world, right? And so sounds like you didn't go that route. You went the music route, and then you kind of found yourself in here. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so really, for me in my life, it's been technology and music. My grandfather in the 80s owned in the Bay Area, California, owned a company called Computer Made. And, he was mainly hardware, helping people set up their computers and so forth. And so when I was young, we had 5 computers in the 90s in our house, right? So, and I just loved typing. I just learned Windows and typing and all kinds of things in that area. But I also, when I was in 3rd grade, I walked by a music room and I heard a sound I'd never heard before, and it was singing. It was voices singing, and I just never heard it. And so I had these parallel paths or interests of technology and then music. And they've always been not really at odds, but I've been trying to figure out, okay, am I going to be a vocalist, a singer, and try to be famous and, do my voice thing, or am I going to be more practical, right, and use my technology skills? And so you're right. It's pretty, I went to college for music, and I'm still trying to figure that out. And it's a tough thing to try to choose that, but I feel like I've found an avenue where both can meet, and I'm working to get into that, but it's a process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's really interesting about that is that most people, they kind of have if not 2, maybe multiple paths that they want to go down, right? They're passionate about different things. You have the whole Ikigai method where it's things that I love, right? What will people pay me for, and what am I good at, right? And then find wherever that, if you were to think of that as a Venn diagram, me being in the middle or you being in the middle is tech, music, and what will people passion, what will people pay you for, and what you're good at. And so this diagram can be as vast as you want, as you kind of have more and more interest. And so I'm very curious on diving right into that specifically right now, on how you're able to kind of find synergy between multiple paths that you're passionate about and see how you're trying to make them work together.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't claim that I've solved this yet, and I'm on my journey, you know. But I think priorities like 7 kids and a wife, who are all wonderful and amazing, bring to the table some, you know, some, like, they help me figure out where my path should lead. And right now, you know, I can help a company with their branding and their website and get paid, you know, thousands of dollars. Whereas if I were to write a song, a couple years ago, I was paid $1,000 to write a song and sing it
Mm.
for a marketing event, actually. And so it's like, until I have the skill sets, which I'd love to share with you actually how I've solved this, but haven't walked down the path yet. But until I have the skill sets to move into my real love and passion, I've got to keep doing, you know, the other thing that I'm good at, right? And so that's, you know, that's kind of what I have to say about that.
That's awesome, man. And so it's interesting, like as you're talking about this, like, you know, trying to find almost that connection between music and like what you're doing and like and everything like that. Jay, this reminds us of someone that we both know, Monty, who he also has a very similar passion. He's like he passionate in music, passionate in tech and business. And funny enough, he like writes and produces songs about like entrepreneurship, and he's like made this whole like brand about it. And who knows, like maybe that's like kind of like the connection point as well too. So, because you said like you got paid to basically like write and perform a song
Yeah.
for a marketing event, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. And the song is a marketing song. You guys should look it up. I'm rewriting the
Yeah.
words because I wanted it to be a real song, right? It's going to be about living your dream, like to live a dream is the rename. But yeah, it's a marketing song, and it, you know, it's an interesting kind of premise, and basically it was for the event was marketing educators in the educator like colleges.
Okay. Yep.
So it talked about how students take it for granted the real skill set of marketing, and how if you learn marketing, man, you're set, right? And so that's kind of the premise of the song, where these students, they just want a grade, but really they need to be really focusing on this life skill marketing. So it's kind of fun.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I figured out how to marry these two, and I'm working
Yeah.
on it, right? So if you write a song, you go play at, I don't play at bars, but a lot of people play at bars, or they do events and things like that. They get paid hundreds of dollars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Music
Yep.
in our country. This is not the way it is in all countries. But what I am trying to position myself as, and I'm in the very beginning of this journey, is becoming a speaker, right? I am a speaker. Instead of I'm a musician, pay me hundreds, I'm a speaker. I bring in original music, and as I'm speaking and inspiring you about entrepreneurship and not giving up, or about marketing, or about how to run a business and stick to the fundamentals, right? I'm going to bring in some of my story on how I've struggled, and then sing the songs that I've written, you know, while I do my keynote as a speaker, you
Mm.
know, a music infused speech. And that's my path, because then I get paid thousands instead of hundreds, right?
Interesting. And so is the idea like obviously you love music a lot more and like I know you want to go into the speaking route. So now combining music with speaking is that first of all, have you started that or is this a path you're trying to go down?
So I haven't, I mean, I spoke once.
Like who does something like this today? That's super interesting because I've never heard this. So like is there other people that you look up to that do things like this?
Yeah, actually, so I found this guy. His name is Tiamo De Vittori, and he did this. He's a musician and he speaks, and it's powerful, right? So what I did is I hopped into his Facebook group. He had a program, and I just blew up his Facebook group basically, because I can be super excited and inspire people and say, you know, hey, let's get this going. And I eventually became part of his team, because he's like, this Josh dude, like, where'd he come from? And so I learned, you know, he's got this whole framework on how to be a successful speaker with a twist on either art in general or music, and bring that in. So I'm a student of his you know, of his methodologies. The thing here is what I struggle with is the confidence piece, right? Like, when do I earn my stripes enough to get on stage and tell people what to do, right? And really, it's not telling them what to do. It's sharing your stories and getting vulnerable, but pulling out of that a life lesson that can be tangible and useful, you know, for someone who's a professional or whatever, you know, event you're at. And so
Yeah.
that's my future path, and I'd really like to get there sooner than later, um, you know, but it comes with challenges.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I mean, it's that confidence thing. I feel like, it might not ever shake. I feel like sometimes earning your stripes is also just like attempting it and doing it. And it's just more about like how are you able to actually get on that stage to be able to like give it a shot, right? But I get it. It's there is definitely a confidence play with like making sure you want to provide value to
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah, and it's not my stage.
Josh, start here. You're on a podcast. Start right
Okay.
here.
Yeah, let me start here.
Seriously, start right here. What do you want to tell the people? You
Yeah,
want to talk
so
about entrepreneurship, and you want to talk about what it takes, and you want to talk about never giving up and resiliency and consistency.
yeah.
What message do you want to share with the audience, with your audience?
So, you know, it's been an interesting road. 8 years ago, I became a front-end web developer and learned how to code, right? And that was cool. That's my zone of excellence. It's not my zone of genius. And as I was moving through that path, I just realized, you know, this isn't like exactly where I need to be.
What
A
gave you
couple
that
of years ago, what was that?
What gave you that realization?
Well, it's all about energy. It's all about your energy when you are up against a task, right? Is the energy, so let me do my finger here. Is the energy going like this, up and bigger, or is it going down and smaller? Right? So when I had to troubleshoot a console error and try to figure out what character in the code was wrong, I mean, that's really nitty gritty. You have to have patience for that, right? But I'm a creator. I'm not a maintainer. There's a difference, right? So I create things and I get extreme energy from that creation. So what happened was I knew, I know that there are vehicles that are better than others to create, you know, freedom, to create abundance, right? And I just felt like the tech world was a good place to go. So I did in 2017. But when 2021 came around, I was like, I really want to do something different. I want to take more control, right? And jump out into the entrepreneurial world again. And so I started a marketing agency, is what I did. Now, in college, while I was doing my vocal performance degree, I actually started a company called the $8 Tie Guy, where I sold neckties for $8. Three for
Nice.
20, and they sold all day long. And I sold in front of a grocery store most of the time. And and so I would get out there, and I had this taste of entrepreneurship. Like if I wanted $300, I could go and get it like immediately. You know, just
Yeah.
sell the ties. Get out there with my tub, set up my, you know, canopy and tables and my whole get up and sell the ties. So anyway, when I started my marketing agency, I was like, you know, I want to create more freedom, right? And in 2023, I felt like I hit a wall. I was like, okay, you know, this isn't working like I wanted it to. Jade, you asked like, what message would I really want to share if I had the stage, right? And the message, one of the biggest messages is you've got to figure out who you got to find out who you are. You got to figure out how you work, right? And you can't ignore the signs, right? So, and I was doing that. I was ignoring that. So one thing I struggle with is ADHD, right? It's not fun. And I was kind of, in my opinion, misdiagnosed as bipolar. And I've got this ADHD ring of fire, which is one of like 6 different types of ADHD.
Right,
And it shows up as bipolar, right?
right.
And so what I was doing is just trying to build this business, knowing that entrepreneurship, I'm kind of monologuing, by the way, so maybe I'll cut
You have
this
the
off
stage,
here.
man. We gave you the stage.
You're
Yeah.
good.
Your message.
But I was moving forward and trying to do what other people on YouTube and LinkedIn were doing, right? But I found out that I just got to look at what I do best, who I am, what drains my energy, and then find other people, to plug in where I'm not optimal. And so that's one big thing in the last couple of years that I've realized is like we can't ignore who we are. If you're the creator, then the planner, you got to just live there, and whoever's the executor and the optimizer, right? There's 4 stages that's kind of in the personality realm. And so that's where I sit, is in the creation and in the planning stages. And so I'm still working on, I've got a couple VAs that are building out websites with me.
Sweet.
But I'm still working on that process of building a business and trying to juggle filling in the gaps with other people to help me grow and keep
Yeah,
afloat.
totally. And talk to us about your business. How's that going?
Yeah. So FusionLoop, I feel like is an extension of kind of, my overall why, to help. Because I feel like a lot of startups come out of the gate and they're like, they have a good idea, but I really want to sit in the place where I help them create like I said, shine online, to create this persona of I'm stepping out with my best foot forward in design and messaging and follow up, so that we can see some conversions and get some, momentum really going. Otherwise, it's like lighting their money on fire if they're using their marketing dollars when they don't have a good conversion engine. So how is FusionLoop going? It's okay. I'm working through figuring out who I'm targeting
Hmm.
and where to go with that.
Cool,
I'm
man.
interested, like Fusion Loop, from what I can understand, like, obviously you said you have web development experience. You guys start building like really amazing websites and then lead magnets, growth systems. Like, I imagine that was an evolution of kind of getting there. There are businesses that purely just focused on like web development, just on lead generation, just on the growth systems. So like, how are you feeling with like tackling like three major buckets? Like, because I imagine that's like maybe not easy off the bat, but people probably asked for it as you went, is my theory.
Yeah, so I came from the background of websites and then I got into marketing, right? So in my mind, a website's great, but you need the marketing pieces, and that's like more of the brand alignment and the lead magnet and the follow up and nurture sequences through email and so forth. So for me, it's like, what resources do I have to help my clients, right? And I have resources to help with brand alignment, right? I have resources to help with email and that lead magnet and the website stuff. I've got, experts in Framer,
Yeah,
which is what I use and things like that. So I think it's dependent on the resources you have, or else you shouldn't be offering what you can't do well, right?
totally. And I'm sure you're kind of like using exactly what you know to help out with marketing that for your clients, for yourself, right? And so how's that going?
Yeah, so I mean, the cobbler usually doesn't have very good shoes, right? So my systems aren't perfect on my end, and so yeah, honestly, like I need to line those up a little bit better, but
I find most people, especially when it comes to marketing, like the biggest thing is leads and like deal flow, right? And so like, brand alignment, lead magnets, cold emails, cold outreach, all that stuff. What has worked for you and what hasn't worked for you?
yeah, I think for me, I mean, I've tried Facebook ads. I believe they work, but it takes time to optimize those, right? So I personally haven't gotten into the big ad spending, but I honestly believe that those work well, right? So I think it just takes time to work out the kinks. What I felt has worked really well for me has been, online presence that looks credible and has social proof, right? And so I've tried to create an environment so that when people hop on my website, they feel like, this is a credible place. This is the place where I can, invest in or research and feel like, okay, this is a company that can,
Yeah.
solve my problems. So
And are
that's
majority of those people that land on your website, are they coming from the Facebook ads?
no, right now it's just like DMs, right, on LinkedIn. So
Gotcha.
What I focus most on is if companies have traffic coming, right? I can help them convert their traffic. When it comes to like traffic generation, that's something that I can do, but that's definitely not, my focus. So as I solidify my lanes, I intend to grow out more of the traffic, generating engines as well. But
And
I
before,
focus on the big four, in my opinion, which is the brand alignment, the website, the lead magnet, and the email nurture.
sweet man. And before we kind of go to our closing question, I want to ask more something about AI specific because we do tend to talk about it a lot on this podcast, and I'm sure for yourself you're probably using and seeing a lot of it. But how are you trying to bring AI into like FusionLoop's ecosystem? Maybe what is like your go-to AI tool or process that you guys have that you just absolutely love?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two answers to that. One is, I'm using ChatGPT to create content and to, I don't know if you know Jeff, I think it's Jeff Woods, AI driven leadership, where enable yourself and your leadership team to have AI as like a strategist, right? And so I'm using AI with strategy. When it comes to my future plans with AI, I really would like to see AI, chatbots and voice AI to be integrated into my offerings, which, I can do now, but I don't really. That's not something I market, um, you know, up front. Really, it's kind of a back end thing that I can help out with. So I think voice AI is going to be really really important.
And we are seeing so much of it right now, like, with the people that we work with. And like, it's always like a feature that people are asking for, or they want somehow in their ecosystem or in their product. So it's huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm
Awesome.
really interested in working through that and getting that fluid so I can help people with that.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, one last question we usually like to ask our guests is a little bit more just kind of coming back out from some of the nitty gritty of what we talk about. But if today was your last day, what's one piece of business or life wisdom that you'd want to like leave the audience with?
So, we wear skin that calls us human, right? So I'm going to get a little philosophical or spiritual here, but the end result here I think is just, we all have skills and talents and things that we can help each other with, right? And I just hope for all of us that, as we're busy every day, just think about, what's the long-term goal for you? Because I feel like, all of us are here, from, I'm religious. So we have our creator who's created us. And I just hope everyone tries to connect with their true calling, their true purpose, right? And just knowing that they are always loved, no matter what. And so as we're going along and moving along in our professional lives, remember that, trying to help people on a human level is important too.
Totally. Love that, man. I love that. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Josh Holladay, it looks like he's doing too much. 7 kids, a philosopher, marketer, software developer, and a musician. Man, really appreciate you being here, guys. Thank you so much for listening in. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can go on there and leave us a rating and a review. Josh, man, again, thank you so much. And looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. We'll see you next time.